We'll just
Ready?
let her rip. We'll just let her rip. Welcome
On
back.
brand. We're back.
Welcome back to Professional Amateurs. I'm your host, Zach Elder, with my co-host, Alex Twangy.
Hello.
I've been working on my podcaster voice, trying to make it more sultry. You ever meet a guy in
Sultry?
person who does radio, and you're like, you can tell before you ask him what he does for a living?
Yeah, you remember I've told you like 4 times my godfather is Dave Lee from WCCO Radio, who was
That's right.
the voice of the Gophers and then was on WCCO Radio for like 25 years. Yeah, he's sultry. Very sultry. Yeah, he is.
So, anywho, here's what I got for you today. I was thinking about something. So, I hired a kid named Noah. Noah Meffert. Shout out Noah. He's going to college for a master's degree in psychology right now. So he's got a background in baseball. He's helping me out with strength and conditioning because he's a performance guy. And he was telling me maybe like a month ago now how he was studying like a societal thing where society at large has lost the coming of age ceremony. And I was talking to him and I was like, damn, dude, you're right. Like, I can't think of anything. And it reminded me of a different conversation that I've seen online about the third place. Have you ever heard of this concept, the third place?
No.
So the third place, so the idea of the third place is like people, they go to work and they come home. And
but yeah, I've heard this. I've heard this one.
When
I didn't realize that was the name of it.
Yeah.
Continue.
So like when our parents were kids, they had like somewhere else that people congregated. And today in modern world, like people, they have 2 places. A lot of people just kind of go to work and come home. Or if they're like a remote worker, they don't even leave their house for like days at a time. They just like log on to the big screen and then they look at their small screen or their slightly larger screen. And they just like, they have a place that they go. And it causes a lot of like, the idea is that there's a lot of downstream mental health problems that can come from that, from just kind of like existing in a cave all the time and like not having this like social place. But what we were discussing is like the third place, capitalism kind of solve that, right? Like if I have the right incentive structure, I can build a third place for people. Because what were third places before? Bars and restaurants and bowling alleys and libraries and in some cases public parks, I suppose, so not a capitalistic thing. But if I have a third place desire, I can go build it, right? And people, if they want it, they'll come and they'll pay me money for it, and it's great. So you're starting to see this pop up, especially in the wellness industry. Gyms are the third place for a lot of people. People join gyms not just to get fit, but for the community, right? That's exactly why CrossFit got so big, right? Because I mean, the fitness itself is nonsensical in a lot of cases, but it doesn't matter because it's about community, right? People have a sense of belonging. They go there every day. They hang out with the people they like and know, right? And you're starting to see it show up now with like the sauna, cold plunge places. People go and they're just kind of like wellness retreats. People are just kind of hanging out. It's not just a place to go and get a quick workout in and leave. So there's an incentive structure set up in a capitalist society that can kind of solve for that, given the right communities. And it's kind of cool because you're not necessarily always just restricted to people you already know. You can go and, I'm interested in this, so I'm going to go find people with like interests, run clubs and so forth. The coming of age ceremony capitalism can't solve for that really. Because it's a societal thing more than it is an availability thing. It's not a demand issue. It's a supply issue. And if you don't have the coming of age ceremony sort of come to you from your immediate family or your immediate peer group, you can't go necessarily and seek it out. And there is some things that people have tried to do that are like, sort of attempting to fill this void, but they're either incomplete, ineffective, or just frankly downright corny. Like think about the the like male camps where guys go and they like go through Navy SEAL training just because they feel like it. Or like, have you seen the videos? Like everybody trolls them online, the videos of people that go out in the woods and they like release past trauma and they just like scream at the trees.
Yeah, man.
The only reason that shit happens is because people don't have this like official coming of age. Used to have this thing where like, okay, you're, of course, 500 years ago, it'd be like, you're 14 now, you're a man. You go into the woods and slay a bear with your bare hands and you come back alive, you're a man. I'm not saying we need to do that exactly, but I can't shake it. It was like a month ago we were discussing this, and I can't stop thinking about this fact that like we don't have this at all.
No.
And it's really weird.
Well, like you said, modern society, there's no reason to. What are you fighting against getting in and out of the chair? Like that's the most like thing you're going to do, right? I guess, I mean, what in the world of sport would be like your coming of age, like for baseball players, like your first home run, kind of like, like on a big field, that's like, you're like, okay, maybe I'm an adult.
But I think that's one of the reasons why people make such a big deal about commitments to go to college. It's like a ceremonial, like I'm going from youth sports to college sports. Look at me, like I'm all grown up now.
Did you get Did you get a big commitment thing?
Yeah, kinda. They like my high school held like a whole thing. It was me and the other athletes that were like signing our letters of intent. It was me and like a girl who was committing to play college hockey, and I think a soccer player, and another guy who was going to play basketball, maybe. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and they all brought us up on the stage at the high school, and we like signed a piece of paper. It was funny, mine wasn't even a real letter. It was literally just a piece of paper, and I like scribbled my name on it just for like the photo op. My parents were there and my high school coach, they took a picture, and it's like, yay. And then, I don't know. It was great at the time. Like I felt super cool. Looking back, it's corny, but something.
I didn't get that. The funny thing is Megan and I are rewatching my Megan, not your Megan, my Megan. We're rewatching Stranger Things, or we're watching Stranger Things. It's all based around high school, and you can even echo this, like when we deal with high school guys and some of the things that present as problems or they're like big moments in their life. I just go, you're not even going to remember any of this. Yeah. Like there are so many bigger things. My kid's going to be screwed because I'm going to be like, I had a terrible day. And I'm going to be like, that's not a real problem. I need you to grow up. But I get I'm trying to, that's a hell of a point. Noah is a very astute young man, handsome. He's going to be fine in life. He's handsome. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like, what would be, I mean, I guess I've had some clients that have gotten into like the trades, right? And a lot of times it's not always mechanic, but whatever trade they've gotten into is something that their father did. So then in that sense, could you say like the coming of age is the first time they complete something that their father teaches them how to do? Because I've had other clients that have like built cars with their fathers, and then that's their first car. And that's kind of like a coming of age moment, like the full perspective of learning a new skill and how to work on something. And if it breaks, then you know what to do and those kinds of things. But yeah, our society doesn't require that. Quick anecdote about this. When I was in graduate school, I was living at my parents' place and I was studying and sleeping in my room at my house, right? Mm-hmm. And I could not sleep because there was no separation of church and state. I was just, when you're studying and you're angsty in the same place that you're trying to rest in, it doesn't work. No. It's the same thing. I got a buddy that lives in Arizona, and he, for years, has been working from home with a child, with a wife at the house, never leaves. He goes, I'm miserable. And I said, you think?
Yeah, you got to go to the house.
He's like, I went into the backyard. I'm like, that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You need to leave the area that you're in. The energy of that place can't share those things. So that would be the lack of congregation part of it too, is just if you're never interacting with anybody that isn't at your house already or on the screen that you're on, it's gonna be really funky. Megan was making fun of me last week after we had our podcast. She goes, I got a bunch of vacuums in the shopping cart. I want to get a new vacuum. And I go, oh, I got a bunch of cubies in there? What are you doing with those things? Huh? You got some deals? And she goes, you're always so weird after you get off that podcast. And I'm like, I was like, this is a form of community for me. It's like, I'm getting it out there. It's like, I mean, you know,
Uh,
but that
it's
is,
so
I think
funny
it's
you say that.
important,
I've had
you
the
know?
same thing happen. We finish podcasting and I go up and I'm kind of charged up, and I made a comment once. I was like, I should do more of these. I always feel pretty charged up for the rest of the day after I do a podcast. And Megan goes, "Yeah, I can tell." And I was like, "Hey, don't you take that tone with me."
It's the same thing. I go, you're fine over there. It's like, calm down. So you want a vacuum? Let's get you a Cubie. She goes, don't call it a Cubie. I was like, come on. You're in on that. And then Kenzie comes and jumps out of the back seat and starts licking my face. But it was, yeah, I think I think that's very astute by Noah. Did he come to that thought of his own volition, or was that, but someone
I'm
put it in
not
his
really
head?
sure if it was like he pointed that out or if it was like this is going to be the subject matter of this like unit in our psychology course. Um, but he was kind of like chewing on it, brought it up to me, I, like I said, I've been thinking about it for like a month, and when I look at like the stereotypical like millennial, that's us, right? But it's like essentially millennials now are in their 30s and I think even early 40s, right? Is it like it's like a 10-year, I don't know. We're all grown up. A millennial is like an adult now, right? But the stereotype for a millennial is that they're essentially a man child, right? All of their tastes are entirely based on nostalgia. They play with Legos even though they're in their 40s. They don't really produce anything. All of their interests are all about consumption. You have this like trend too of the dinks where like, people who are grown-ups, they both have careers and they choose to not have kids, which is one thing, but whenever people get online and they try to sell that lifestyle, it's always like, look at what I can do. And they're just doing child activities all day. They're like playing video games and building Legos. And I'm like, you're doing what you would do if you had a child, dude. Like you're just
Yeah.
playing all day, which is fine, I guess. But your whole selling point of this lifestyle is that you never had to actually grow up. And I think
Mhm.
a lack of a formal coming of age ceremony is one of the reasons why you have that symptom of these people who are sort of like stunted, in their development. They just kind of never really mature past teenager. And then they end up being like a 45-year-old teenager. And it shows up in a lot of places. It shows up in like media, it shows up in politics, it shows up in like workplaces. I mean, my friends who have like quote unquote normal jobs, they tell me stories about people getting upset about one thing or another at work, and it's essentially comes down to like schoolyard, like he was being a meanie. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, are we really
Yeah.
are we really doing this? And I just think I can draw a lot of these things back to this one thing that Noah pointed out to me. Like nobody has this like moment with their family or their community or their whatever, where it's like you're an adult now. And it used to be religious. A lot of them were religious, right? Like you have a couple that are left, maybe. You have bar mitzvahs, but a bar mitzvah happens when you are, by today's standards, still a child, right? And it's tradition. The Jewish tradition it's this age. And when that started, I imagine you kind of were a man at 14 or 15, or I
Yeah. Because you're
apologize,
only
I
going
don't
to
know
live,
exactly what age bar
you're, you're,
mitzvahs happen at, but
you're only going to live 30 more years after that. So you better get the show on the road while you're dying.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, I
So
wonder, well, what about
it,
like there's like a quinceanera, those kinds of things. I mean, graduation of high school is a pretty momentous coming of age ceremony, is it not?
it should be, but think about what happens next for 90% of people these days.
They just
They
continue
just
going
put
to school.
and they put it off, right? Because college isn't higher education. Let's be honest. College is a vehicle for kids to put off real adulthood for 4 more years so they can go and goof off and do, go party and whatever for 4 years.
Also, well, it's also a holding pen because our society couldn't, the way that we're structured, we couldn't handle that kind of flood into the workforce. Do we need like a holding tank to which to suck money out of them before they even make money? That's a whole nother. So that's part of it too. I I, I don't know. I felt like looking back, and even at the time, when high school graduation happened, I looked at my dad. I was like, I don't want to do this. It's like, do I have
Yeah.
to walk? He goes, yeah. I said,
I tried to skip mine.
okay.
My parents made me go.
I skipped my college one, and I've said this before on here. I tried to skip my doctoral one, and my dad goes, "You're going." And I said, "I don't want to go across that stage with these people." It's like, I don't want to do that. I guess that's a really good point. I guess you go. It doesn't really. It's not like anything changes. You get 3 months of summer where you have nothing to do, and then and some people work a summer job scooping ice cream or whatever, and then you just go off to college, and you continue doing the same things you were doing with more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. And then you graduate college and you go off to the workforce, and really, unless you do something crazy, you're going into like a relatively entry level job where you kind of just goof off and get paid to go exist at work.
Yeah.
What a sad way that we've turned the beginning into. Isn't that awful? There's no risk. You're just kind of like, okay, you want to go punch numbers into a computer? Boop, 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 boop. Oh, here's $1,000. I didn't do anything this week. Here's $1,000. No one's checking on me. Here's $1,000. I just played a multiplication game for 4 hours. Here's $1,000. And it's just because it's nothing. That's very sad to think about it that way. It's kind of depressing.
It's kind of a cynical way of looking at it for sure. I'll tell you the closest thing I experienced that to me, like when I think about it, is the closest thing I got to it was my wedding. You know, like when I got married, it was like, okay, you know, and we'd lived together. We owned a home. You know, we were engaged for, almost 2 years, I think, before we had the wedding. But like when we had the wedding, it really felt like, okay, now I'm the man of the house, right? Not that I wasn't before, but it's like, now it's for real. Like, this is my family. I have a responsibility, you know, and like, I mean, let's be real. I still call my dad about stuff. Like, when I don't know how to fix something, that's, you know, Dad, help. But, you know, that's the closest thing that I think I got to it, where, and I think this whole coming of age thing is most insidious for young men, because that was kind of the purpose of the coming of age existing. It was, hey, this is the official moment where you have to take responsibility. And most men need to feel some sense of responsibility to feel fulfilled. Feeling responsible for something other than yourself is a really key piece of fulfillment for most men. And I would stand on that statement. I think that that's really important for people to feel that, right? And that's one of the reasons why people seek out those third places, because you want to feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, but you also need to feel like you're responsible for something bigger than yourself. And that's slightly but important difference.
I agree. I think it's the same reason that dudes end up tinkering and they have a million things that they take care of, because you're responsible for something. It's something that it needs you, right? So you have a yard, you're responsible for it. You have to take care of it. You have a house, you're responsible for it. You have to take care of it. That fills that need to provide external stability for something else, because it's not just you. You're not just keeping yourself alive. I feel that a lot of times when we get done with playing amateur baseball, I've always been the guy that fixes the mound after the game. But I was always the guy that fixed the mound when I was a kid at the baseball field. My dad was a coach. So there's like this full circle moment of like, if the mound is perfect, that means that I've done my job. I've taken care of this dictates where the game starts and ends, which is kind of this. It's weird as I grow older. There was a moment this summer I realized I've been working at a baseball field for 30 years. Like I've been raking and dragging and like fixing a mound for almost 30 years. Is
as soon as you could walk,
crazy,
probably, right? Yeah.
I started dragging the field at 4. I could just sit on the cushion and I could drag the field at 4. So that was when it started, when I formally, but before that I was raking baselines. I would imagine when I was a pretty big kid, I was running a rake when I remember putting sod in when I was 5.5.
You know how the
rolling
kids
out rolls
say
of sod.
lore? You know, when we're around the kids and they say like, oh, this is lore. I love Alex 20E lore. Like every time we uncover more lore, it's always something good.
It's
picturing
crazy.
Little 5-year-old Alex like running a sod cutter and Paul going like, hold it straight.
I remember he brought in this external company. I think I've told this story before. So he brought in this external company. It was one of the guys who played for him was from Florida, and it's a sod company from Florida. They brought it in, and the dad's there, and it's all these. So he flew up his crew because they were doing like 7 jobs that week. He flew up his crew. They resodded the entire infield and the back part of the apron in like 5.5 hours. My job, the guy goes, he has this. It's not even hot. It's like fall in Indiana, but he's dressed like he's in Florida, and it's the middle of summer, right? He's got this like camo kind of safari hat on with like a vest with all the pockets on it, right? And he's carrying around 2 machetes because his job is to do the finish cutting with the machetes. So you lay down the sod, and if there's like too much rolled up, he just takes a machete and goes and cuts it back in, right? And they did it all by hand, no machines, just laid it down, right? And he goes, all right, son, and he's kind of got this he's kind of got a cleat. Shoo! He goes, all right, son, go ahead, get me one of them rolls and bring it over here. Whenever you bring it down, set it down, go get another one. Just keep on going back and forth. And we just did that for 3, and all of a sudden the entire field was covered. And he's out there with just 2 machetes, just chopping, and it's laying like perfectly flat. And all these Hispanic dudes are just flying around with like tamps. It was chaos, but it was nuts, man. I remember just my dad goes, Alex, when you start swinging the machete, just get out of the way. And I said, because I would literally I'd unroll the roll, and you could hear them like chopping behind me because you just like set the roll in and you get it flat, and then you could like I'd be here, right? I'm and a foot and a half behind me, you could hear chick, 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 and my dad goes, just get out of the way. Dude, it was so crazy, man. Oh, I didn't think about that till now. I haven't thought about that probably for about a decade, so that was funny. Good. I'm glad that brought that back to my mind.
Good
It's
stuff.
good memory.
Man, when you meet people like that, it's always something. We had these guys come up and help build our nets and our hitting facility, and they were 2 Jamaican guys. And one guy's nickname was Jungle Jim. I think his name was Jim, or I mean, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But
James.
The other guy was calling him Jungle Jim, and I was like, we're like, what do you call him that? Well, we found out really fast because they're up on that scissor lift thing, and he's like hanging on with his feet, like leaning over to like off the edge of the thing, like tying a knot. And he's like got his elbow hooked here, and he's reaching and doing this thing. And we were like standing on the ground going like, oh my God.
Please
like,
don't fall.
That's why they call him Jungle Jim. But it was the same thing. Like just pop, 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 you know, like.
Dude, okay. So is there, I think about this a lot of times when I'm doing dumb shit at my house that's like maintenance stuff, or I'm doing things and you do it and then you go, I could have really gotten hurt doing that. Like I could have died. And there's sometimes like they'll be doing at my house. I'm like, I just risked my life to save $500.
Yep. All the time.
What's wrong with me? And then, but then you just do it over and over again. Like it's not like it changes. It's like, what was, I was watching something, and the point was, I'm getting a little off topic here, but this kind of ties back into the coming of age thing. It was this, we have this inherent risk to flirt with death. Like we have this want as humans to push that edge of, okay, I know I can get away with it. I know I can get away with it. I know I can get away with it, right? It's do you want more drink? One more drink? Yes. Can I go 4 miles an hour faster? Yes. Can I, if I squeeze these 5 things in today, can I get it all done? Like this risk, this inherent risk that we accept as part of life. But sometimes maybe that's just how you kind of feel alive, is you go, do you want that? Yeah. Do you need it? No, but you stay yes anyway. I don't know if that would change if we were in a more archaic society where the risk was much more apparent. It was right in front of your face, right? Like you don't dress warm enough, you might catch pleurisy and you're gonna die because we don't have antibiotics.
Yeah.
You know, like what if that was
the teenagers put on their jacket then? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Or you're on the Oregon Trail and you go, I like my steak medium rare. Well, we're cooking this to well done because if there's any maggots in it, you're dead. Like the comforts that we afford and we get to experience all the time, a lot of times I think might come back to that too, which is another very cynical way to look at it. But for example, who needs a cabinet full of booze? You're intentionally keeping poison in your house.
Yeah.
What? Why is that there? Like you know that's going to kill you, but yet it's there, right? It's like there's, I mean, and there's a million things, right? There's
When I
endless
was
examples. That was
13
just the first
and
one.
we built
I'm not,
a
yeah.
bike ramp, and we we would bike as fast as we could down the street, hit the ramp, and see how far we could launch ourselves down the street. And we would mark the landing spots with sidewalk chalk. And we did that for like an entire summer and got progressively farther and farther and farther and farther. And then, of course, somebody launched themselves off their bike and landed on their head, you know?
Yep. Hmm. But
Thankfully, he had
that's
he
also,
had a helmet on.
that's being kids. I'm talking more like adult
Yeah.
based risk, right? Where you're just like, I
Yeah.
need to feel alive kind of thing. I don't feel alive on my roof. I feel terrified on my roof, but I'm up there, I'm up there saving money. So I don't know.
Well, it's
Man.
interesting too, though, because it's like you have sort of the subsect of it's like trendy now, but like you have the Brian Johnson sort of uh, disciples of the world where they are so over optimized because of their own fear of dying that like they're doing all of these crazy health fitness things to try to live as long as possible, and they're almost to me that's a little childlike in and of itself. Like you aren't accepting the reality that like you could step off a curb and get hit by a bus, um,
Dude,
or
you could do everything right in your entire life. This is, I, I'm not, I mean, I'm afraid to die because of what I would leave behind, but I'm not afraid to die. Like when it's my time, it's my time. You can't fight that part of your destiny. Like when it comes, it comes. It's like we can put it off another day. No, you can't. Your day was counted and marked way before you made any of these decisions. It's the idea that you're like, oh, I can extend my longevity, brother. You could still have an aneurysm.
yeah. Have you
Could still
seen the
happen.
movie Annihilation?
No, sounds like something I steer clear of. I
It's not
hate
as
scary movies.
it's not as scary as it sounds, but I do too. Actually, I'm a gigantic baby. But
Same.
so the movie is, let me see if I can describe this movie properly. So there's a bubble that shows up. I'm already doing a bad job. There's a scientist, and they discover this, like, I think they call it the shimmer in the movie. It's literally like this bubble that just like shows up one day in this spot, and it's like a dome, but it's like a phenomenon of physics. And they're like, what the hell's going on in here? And they like go in there and they check things out, and things in there are crazy. And the guy comes out of it, but like something's off. It's like not him. And his wife is like, you know, freaked out because she can tell like that's not my husband. He returned from this thing, but it's not really him. It's like, and so they bring him in, they study him, and they're like, it's him, and she's like, it's not. And then she goes in there, and then there's like all these animals that are kind of messed up and they're like decaying, but they're alive. It's like there's a scene with a zombie bear. It's super scary. Um, the
Yeah,
whole
you're
thing is
selling me
supposed to
this
be
movie. You're
but
really
the whole
selling it.
movie, I guess, is supposed to be a metaphor for like self-sabotage. How like, it's some people think it's the whole thing's a metaphor for cancer, but it's also supposed to be a metaphor for like how human beings like inherently can't help themselves, but like self-sabotage, and like we're self-destructive by our nature for some reason, you know? Um, and if you watch it again with that in mind, it's kind of heavy because you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of the thing there. Um, it's so I don't know, man. It's a wild. I recommend. There's a lot of good media out there. There's a lot of bad media out there. But there's some things that are well written in the sense of like looking at the human condition and all of that. I've talked about it before. One of my favorites is Severance. Looking at the nature of consciousness and memory and your sense of self and all that stuff. Like
Dude,
it's great.
that show is so, there are so many great things to take away from the way that was made, how it's put together, and just like the intentional choice that we make as humans to do certain things. And you just go, you don't have to actually do the beauty of being an adult, the true beauty. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do all these things that we pile upon ourselves, or we go somewhere and there's this preconceived notion that you need to have to do something, or you have to make, you actually don't have to do that. You can decide to be and do within relative reason anything you want, right? As long as you're not like, I mean, you could choose to kill people. It's a very dark and a dismal path, and I hope no one does that. You could choose to do that. The outcome's terrible because you're destroying even more. But like the whole point is that you have that ability. Like you can choose things within reason, right? You can make choices, and the fact that you can choose to just like give away, it's such a cool concept. Question now on this brought up this annihilation thought. Natalie Portman, by the way, I looked up the
Yes.
little cover. She's great. Do you think in like the pre-modern society, right? So let's go like feudal society, right? Because we're subservient to the community in the sense that you're a king or like a higher up or a baron or something lords over you, right? And you have to serve them and they get a portion of whatever, right? But realistically, your community is probably 100 people, 300, 400 people, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. That type of existence where you literally can't look past a couple of weeks, right? Because we could go back even further. You could go back to like a hunter and gatherer society where you literally can't look past like a day, 2 days. You're just trying to make it to the next day, right? Where in a feudal society, you at least have like a house and those kinds of things, right? So you can look a couple of weeks forward, 2-3 weeks forward, right? Do you feel like that type of existence might have been more complete because you're not wondering what's out there, what's pie in the sky, because you're trying to just make the most of what you have? Do you feel like that might have been a more complete, or do you think it's incomplete in the sense that there's no dreaming allowed because you're just working, right? So you can't sit and ponder the larger things in life. You just are, you're in the mud, literally trying to survive. Do you think that would bring more like balance relatively?
I saw this hypothetical on Twitter the other day. It said, like, how far back would you need to go and be the richest person in the world, and your life is not better than it is today? Because, if you think about how insanely wealthy we really are relative to most of human history, like, it's insane. Like, my day-to-day life is better and easier than the richest guy in the world in the year 1500. Right?
Oh, well,
Maybe.
hold on. Let's put the definite, because let's define what that is. Because like in 1500, they're just having grand feasts all the time and just eating until they puke, and then and then they go to war once every like probably 2 months.
But then it's like I guess in terms of like, you're also filthy, but you don't know any different. But you have like so 2 really, baths a year, even if you are rich, like, there's rats everywhere. And it's like, so I think that's kind of what they're getting at with that hypothetical. Okay. But to your point, like, there's a sweet spot of having like some of the you have it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you don't have that base met, then you're going to spend all your time and energy just worrying about food and shelter and like trying not to get eaten by a wolf. And, the people from the town next door are going to try to come and kill us all next week, probably. And so we got to make sure we prepare for that. Like, all your time and energy is spent there, and you don't have any like energy to direct towards the like self-actualization piece. And so your life is definitely kind of sort of incomplete in that sense. But at the same time, depending on where you landed in a hierarchy, like, I'm reading a book right now called Shogun. It takes place in 1600s Japan, feudal Japan, peak of the Edo period, where, you had these like very defined castes of society. You had the lords and the samurai, and then you had the peasants. If you were a samurai, like, your life was given to your lord. Like, if your lord said, go over there and like fight those guys because I said so, you just go do it. You don't question it. Like, you don't really, like, you're willing to die for your lord and all that, right? But samurai also was a really spiritual society. They had time to like meditate, and at least in this book, they talk at length about watching the rocks grow. because they're trying to find their like tranquility. So they go out in their rock gardens and they just like stare at the rocks and they're like trying to see them growing, and it helps them be centered. And so they find this like spiritual self actualization. But part of the reason I think that that society was able to do that is because they had servants. A samurai had like all these peasants that were like subservient to him.
You're looking at you're Alice through the looking glass. You're at mid upper level part of society. As
Right.
a samurai, you're high enough up that you're safe, right? Whereas if I think maybe even a better example of this is like the frontier society. So you come to America, they say, hey, you go out here, you live for a certain amount of time, all this land's yours free of charge. Now, at any point, someone could come and attack you and kill you, because this is all the 4 people that live with you in your house. That's the only people that have claim to that land, right? But if you make it through that purpose of getting that for your family, keeping your family alive, teaching the ways of like taking care of the property, that kind of thing, that is, I argue sometimes that's a complete existence in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a microcosm of just understanding how to keep something special, or something that's to your family or to your immediate surrounding, or the feudal society, right? Your conglomerate has to, it's a kind of a silly example, but your conglomerate has to produce X amount of mud blocks. You have to make a number of bricks every however long to keep the Lord happy. Every time you make the amount of bricks, everyone goes down to the local pub, you get banged up, everyone goes home, right? But that's that cyclical pattern of you're serving and fulfilling the need, and then coming back to the top, and serving and fulfilling the need and coming back to the top. I mean, it's farming. It's not at mega scale like we do in the United States or anywhere now, but it's farming to a degree, right? The need needs to be met. Okay, let's start the cycle. Needs met. Okay, cost went down, but the need is still there, and we do it again. Okay, cost went up. It's going to be a better year. Let's do it again. And it's that, yeah, you would want more, more acreage eventually if you can think that way. But what if you have 15,000 acres and would you feel whole knowing that you're serving a purpose that's going to keep you and your family fed, keep you busy? You have a reason to get up every day and be like, okay, I got to go to work because I'm serving something, or I'm creating something for somebody else. I think that in it of itself is a form of a coming of age, right? Mm-hmm. You're knowing that so let's go back to the frontier family, right? You're 7. You just killed your first first squirrel, something, right? Okay. Cook that squirrel for your family. Is that not a coming of age at 7 in a way?
Right. Yeah.
So
truth is, like, you should probably have many kind of progressive,
right.
Yes. But yeah, we aren't hardwired. We aren't like designed to know what's going on in the entire world all the time. If a butterfly flaps its wings in Timbuktu, I know about it on Twitter within 1 hour. And that's part of the reason why you have this group of people, especially people our age, where they're always like supporting or protesting the current thing, because they've lost sight of what really matters to them, like in their immediate circle. They aren't part of something that really matters to them. So then they have to go and get upset about something that's happening over there and this and that, and like, or they support this and that, right? But it's always far away from them, and they're trying, but the time before the information age, you didn't even know what was going on over there. So you couldn't worry about it. You could only worry about what was going on in your immediate area, your immediate family, your immediate town, whatever, right? If I lived in San Francisco in 1797, I don't think San Francisco existed then, but you get my point.
It might have. I'm not. Should we see?
Yeah, when was San Francisco founded? I'm not going to be worried about what's going on in Des Moines, Iowa. I don't know. I barely know Des Moines, Iowa exists. And I'm not saying that that's net better. I think it's probably net better that we have the information age. But that's the downside of it. The downside of it is that people have a hard time compartmentalizing what actually matters to their immediate life.
it's Megan and I have this debate all the time. We're like, should we watch, should we be more concerned about global affairs and those kinds of things? And I always end up coming back to Megan usually plays devil advocate. She's better than I am about that. I'm innately, what would you say, contrarian. I have this where someone tells me something and I go, oh, why?
Yeah.
I don't really have like this, like, I think you're wrong. I just want to know. Like, I just want the reasoning behind the way you think that way. And I'd be like, oh man, can you believe what's happening over there? Sure.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it. I can't.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Alex, the chiropractor who coaches baseball stuff. What am I going to fly over there and teach them how to throw the grenades harder? Like,
yeah.
I
But
can't
you should
do
be
anything
upset about it, Alex. That's what you can do about it.
Great.
You can
I'm going to waste
perform.
my energy. Yeah, I'm going to waste my energy
perform
on
for
that.
other people. Make sure
For sure,
they know
yeah.
you're upset about it.
I've so many. That was like the meeting you, Megan, and I had the other day. We haven't cut like I don't even know what the next steps are yet, and I was like thinking about a lot, and I go, I can't think about it that much right now because I don't even know what the next what it even is yet. I was like, I can like have it in my head, but I can't waste any more of my like day-to-day bandwidth on this like thing that will eventually happen. But I can't just like, ooh, what's it going to be? I don't have the knowledge to know that, so I can't do so. Anyway, San Francisco was founded in 1776.
1776.
Same year as this amazing country that we live in. Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy? I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have guessed like 1800s or something.
Yeah, 1800s when the gold rush happened. I would have assumed.
Well, I guess if it was a port.
I guess. Yeah.
Do you want me to ask who?
There? Yeah.
Let's find out. Let's see.
History lesson with Zach and Alex. American history.
It was established the Presidio and Mission San Francisco de Assisi. Named Yerba Buena by the Spanish. So Spanish colonists. So there you go.
By the way, speaking of people being mad online about things, there's all the controversy about immigration in Mexico and so forth and such with, and I'm not going to opine on that for this podcast.
Good use of opine.
I did think it was sort of amusing to me, where there was a lot of people who were like pointing out how many cities in California have Spanish names. And they were kind of trying to make the point that like, that's because of Mexico, And I was like, do you guys know why Mexico speaks Spanish? That's not Mexico Spanish. Those names are white people Spanish. That's from Europe, like that's
fancy cheese at lunch Spanish. That's big
that's
time
cigarettes
Spanish.
At 10 a.m. Spanish. That's that's speaking with a lisp Spanish. That's Barcelona right there.
Yes. Well, that was it sometimes shocks me. I'll talk about either like what I think or what we learned was common historical things. There was something else in the weight room the other day when I asked a kid if they knew what it was, and everyone looked at me like I was an idiot. And it was something that we were taught when we were in school. And I go, so what, are we just filtering out history now? Like we just pieces of this aren't happening? Or I think it was something about the Cold War. It was like a very normal, like Cold War topic, right? Like the Cuban Missile Crisis or what the Cold War even was.
Yeah. The
kid looked at me like I was an idiot. He's like 17. And that would be something that you would probably cover in a U.S. history course, you would imagine, right? The time when we almost bombed each other completely off the face of the earth. And he goes, yeah, we haven't covered that. I'm graduating soon, and I don't think we're going to cover that. And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah. I was like, these were pivotal moments in history. This is where we almost lost the world. The entire world almost ceased to exist. And instead, we're talking about God knows what.
Yeah. Well,
I don't even know.
They might have covered it. Like, let's be honest.
I'm just saying, I don't think you would forget that if you were sitting in class, dude, and someone was like, you need to know about the time that all the nuclear bombs almost all went off. You wouldn't catch that?
I don't know, man. I would.
Yeah.
Shit, I used the word. What was the word? I said something in training last night. I thought it was pretty normal vocabulary, and kid just blank stare at me. And I was like, do you know what that means? And he's like, nah.
Yep.
Like,
I
all right.
said I said apathy the other day to a private school kid, and he goes, "Do you mean empathy?" And I said, "No, I said apathy." And
No, I do not.
he goes, "What does that mean?" I said, "You don't know what that means?"
You're demonstrating it right now, pal.
And of course, he's
Oh
just
boy.
blank staring at me, wiggling around with a body blade. I was like, nice. Very good. Very, very good.
Oh man. Well, what do you think, Alex? Is that it? Is that the pod?
It's good for me. If it's good for you, I thought that was pretty funny.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.